I was talking to my friend about how Instagram was so bad, but he said something to me at the end of the conversation. I've never thought about Instagram or Reels like that before because I told him something that normally you don't hear. Normally everyone's yapping about your attention span. Your attention span is going to get worse. That isn't even close to the worst side effect of watching too many Reels. And in this video, I just clicked off the script. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I started to only scroll 5% of what I used to. Like, it was a massive life changer. I saved so much time. But the solution, like the easy solution, is at the end. But I want to share you this story that explains why Instagram Reels can be so bad. I remember this one night, I planned this rager of a party, 200 people, pulled up to the beach. It was amazing, bro. I felt like the man. But I was chasing ego, I was chasing validation, which isn't even a bad thing. But then, about a year later, I wanted to do this same kind of like have a big day, like an ego kind of thing. And I was planning this like little boat trip. I was invited like 10, 20 girls. I invited like 5 guys, maybe not that many girls. But I remember the last moment before so like the morning was 8 a.m. I just started getting messages saying, sorry, I can't come. I got a headache, blah, blah. What had happened was the night before, every single person that was coming said they were coming on the boat, because this was the last day of school before like Christmas holidays. Everybody went out and got smashed because all these people had been working hard. They wanted to get out and everyone was going out. It happens, right? And I remember the night before seeing everybody just getting drunk and feeling sick. And I was like, shit, how many people are really going to be able to come tomorrow? Especially to go on a boat, be dizzy and be in the sun all day, right? I was close with these group of guys at this time, not the boat. Right as the boat thing happened, my whole like mindset changed around being social, because I have already done these like external things like getting big parties, but I wasn't internally satisfied. I was hanging out with guys who were just with like a kind of like a part of, you know, boosting my ego more, you know, being more like popular, meeting loads of people, being in like getting invited to more parties. This is not a bad thing, and I still like those guys a lot. But the bad thing was that I wasn't hanging out with people who I actually really loved, or like the people who I was the closest to that I grew up with. So I started to hang out with my friends who I was closer with from a child, way more. And what ended up happening was I had the best 3 weeks of my entire life. We were still going out a lot, but all of a sudden, I wasn't trying to plan these big events. I actually became fulfilled. I actually was happy to be around these guys, and I stopped chasing these validation from these big parties. I just actually felt good enough in myself for once. I hung out with these guys because I would always watch Instagram. I hung out with the old friends a lot because I would always watch Instagram Reels of like guys doing really well, showing their highlights. And what ended up happening in my mind is I started to chase these highlights, and it was possible for me because I'd been working on it, and I had a lot of like friends and stuff. So it was possible, and it was a good thing. But then to actually, like the point where I actually became happy in my life, the best 3 weeks is when I wasn't scrolling Instagram for a few weeks. I stopped chasing highlights, and all of a sudden, I had the best 2 weeks ever. I hung out with friends I actually really liked, who actually made me feel good about myself. This was the first time I didn't feel insecure that people liked me. And you know what, bro? This is a hard topic, and there's a lot of things I just said, but if you want an in-depth guide on making good friends, link in the description. Buy my course, bro. Buy my course. But I really recommend that if you're the kind of guy who keeps chasing validation, or I'm not going to get in the other points too much, but you keep chasing like moments where you look cool, or you're very worried about what people think of you, it's probably because you're watching a lot of Instagram Reels, man. I remember this friend of mine, he sent me a reel of, it was like POV, you finally shoot your shot with fine shit and you fumble and stutter. I remember like watching that, and I knew that if this kind of reel is on this guy's feed, because at this time he was getting really nervous around approaching girls, like he was really like, it wasn't struggling a lot, but he used to be a lot more social, he told me, and he at this time was starting to find it harder to speak to girls, dry patch, you could say. And I replied to this Instagram reel that he sent me. I was like, bro, this is why you're finding it so awkward to talk to girls, because this video, all it does is make you nervous about the worst possible outcome that could happen every time you talk to a girl. It doesn't seem deep, but when you're watching this reel over and over, over a few weeks, as these patterns, you don't realize what reels you're watching and how it affects your brain. But over a few weeks, it actually does make you way more nervous with girls. And I was like, bro, I know that I'm like making a big deal out of this, but I think that it's so important that you just press not interested when you get a reel like this, or just delete Instagram. He stopped taking any shots with girls. He was so scared to approach people just because of these reels, this kind of pattern that was going on in his life when he used to never struggle with this. The next piece of advice I have for you, bro. I remember my dad, he used to say to me, don't worry, Finn, you're not chubby. One piece of chocolate a day is fine. And what would happen is I would have this chocolate, it's dark chocolate, and I would rip through like a whole bar of dark chocolate. Yeah, I know it's 70% dark chocolate, but it's still a shit ton of calories. And this is not a story about getting into good shape, but this is a story about who you take advice from. Because my dad wasn't in good shape, respectfully to him. He has gotten into good shape lately. But it wasn't from me. I didn't get into, I lost a lot of weight, by the way. I didn't get into better shape by listening to his advice. He got into better shape by listening to my advice when I was in good shape. Let me simplify this. Don't take advice from somebody who doesn't have what you want. My dad is great for advice in a lot of areas, but for last while, he's not like the epitome of health. So why would I take advice from him? But when I had gotten into good shape, I go to the gym all the time. I got into the epitome of health, in good shape, decent muscle, not epitome, but in a decently good shape. Then he listened to me when I gave him advice. It actually worked. He's in the best shape of his life. This is why mentorship is so good. What you're doing on Instagram Reels, though, is you're looking at people who are faking it. Because I remember looking at this Instagram reel of this really jacked guy saying, oh, you guys need to do this exercise. But then I realized this guy's on steroids. It's so obvious. He's got that really big veins. I know how to identify people on steroids fairly easy. And I just realized I'm taking advice from this guy who cheated. He could have not even gone to the gym and taken the same steroids he was taking, and he would have still made more progress than any normal guy who goes to the gym. And so that's why I'm saying, make sure you when you want to follow someone's advice, make sure you know them personally and they have what you want. Because mentorship is broken. I've got 2 points that are kind of mixing up right now. The first point is that when you follow advice from somebody who you want to become, you will become them faster than following anybody else's advice. Because they got to where they are for a reason. So listen to a guy who used to be fat, and you know him personally, and then he suddenly got into good shape. Not suddenly, but he slowly worked something realistic, and he got into good shape. Listen to that kind of guy. It's the same with me. I struggled being social, and I finally fixed the problem. I did loads of things. This was very calculated. So click the link in the description and buy my course, bro, because I know what I'm doing. I went through this. But the next point I want to give is when you're going on Instagram Reels, there's all these guys giving you advice, but it's probably shit advice because they're probably faking that they know what they're talking about. I know it's a bit ironic because I'm one of those guys online and I could be faking what I'm talking about, but I'm not. And if you have the trust in me, you think that I actually have good advice, and you see my thumbnails, you see some photos of me with my friends, I clearly have good mates and I clearly don't struggle anymore. That's why I think you should buy my course. But the other thing about Instagram Reels, and I noticed this when my friend, he kept cutting for some reason. He's skinny, respectfully, and he kept going on a cut. He's like, oh, I need to get a six-pack. But he doesn't care. He was trying to bulk, and he kept, after 1 month, every single time he would cut, no, I'm getting too fat now. Because what was happening was he kept seeing these reels from this guy called Baby Stickley, who was in super lean, never bulks, and he's saying, oh, cutting is the epitome of health, blah, blah, blah. This guy literally went on a call with a minor who, it's a really weird coincidence, but he went on a call with a minor, under 18, and was speaking to her for 2 hours. This guy's a fucking loser on Omegle speaking to somebody who's 16 years old. And I just happen to know this girl, and I heard this from my friend that she sent him a photo. She was on a call with him for a while. Can you believe that, bro? We're out here taking advice from pedophiles and probably guys on steroids and insecure people. Most of the time, just fully insecure people who don't know what they're doing. And we're taking their advice. And we don't know because we're on Insta Reels and it's also confusing. You need to narrow down who you're watching, but Instagram Reels, TikTok completely destroys the ability for you to do that. YouTube's a bit better because you can like pick a few creators you like. And I'm not saying that I'm the best guy. I mean, I am, but like, I'm not forcing you to think that I'm the best guy. I'm just saying stop listening to every single person because there's so many liars, man. $5 a year saved me this trap of every time that I would delete Instagram, I'd re-download it because some girl wanted my Insta or some guy was like, oh, what's your Instagram? And then I spent $5 on this app called #Block It. It's not sponsored, by the way, but I would love a sponsorship. I'm too fucking small right now, bro. My channel's not big enough, but this saved me so much time. $5 for hundreds and hundreds of hours. That's an amazing deal. $5 for mental clarity, for so much more happiness. And basically what it does is it allows you to use Safari Web, but it turns off all posts, all stories, and all reels. So all you need to do is not download Instagram, and you can still put up a story on your Instagram web, and you won't have any distractions, and you can message people and follow people. That's what would stop me from falling in the trap where I kept re-downloading Instagram. Thank you for watching this video, bro. Have a good day.